For the first time in Artimate history, I am welcoming the amazing Grammy Award winning pianist and just an all around great guy. Bill Charlap is here.
Thank you, Kiana. I'm delighted to be here with you.
I am delighted that you are here to talk about what is now, gosh, the 37th season of Jazz in July, the quintessential summer jazz festival in New York City.
Yes, it's just delightful to have been artistic director for the last 17 years.
Wow.
And amazing people who I've had the honor of sharing the stage with, from James Moody to Benny Golson to Ray Bryant to Cecile McLaurin-Salvant to Hank Jones to Jim Hall to Phil Woods. Oh, many, many others. It's really an amazing series and the most beautiful hall.
Wow, the list goes on and on, but this year, for me, it seems super special because you're crossing generational lines with this year's lineup here. Let's talk about it. Man, you got some heavy hitters coming.
Yes. Well, there's 4 concerts this summer, and the first one takes place on the 19th of July. The concerts are the last 2 weeks of July, and 92 NY, for those who don't know, is 92nd Street and Lexington Avenue. And it's a large cultural center with all kinds of different things going on there. There are classrooms, there are various different theaters, there are interviews, there is a classical music series, there's theater music, and in our case, we are at the wonderful Kaufman Concert Hall, which is about 1,000-seat, beautiful, all wood hall that's very comfortable, sounds fantastic on stage, sounds fantastic in the audience. Jerry Mulligan once told me that it was his favorite concert hall in New York City, and that's
really.
So
I'm so excited because I've never actually been. This will be my first time.
Well, I'm excited that you're going to be there. And as I said, they are all the last 2 weeks of July, Tuesday and Thursday, and then the following week, Tuesday and Thursday.
So let's go date by date. So the 19th, you're kicking things off.
Yes.
Who do you have?
Well, with my trio of the last 25 years, my musical partners, Kenny Washington at the drums and Peter Washington at the bass. Nice. And we'll be joined by a most special guest, the great Joshua Redman.
Wow.
At the saxophone.
And that'll be his first time?
It's his first time on Jazz in July. And in fact, it's the first time that Joshua and I are playing together.
Wow.
So I really can't wait. I know it's going to be a wonderful meeting of the minds and very natural, I'm certain. Joshua had mentioned to me, quite a few years ago, he said, I would love to play with the trio sometime. And so here is that time. And it will be wonderful to play together. So nice. That's our first concert.
And then the Thursday?
Thursday will be a celebration of the piano and piano players, and it's multi-generational of a sort. 2 of my favorite piano players in the world, well, the man who I feel is really the premier jazz pianist in the world today, the great Kenny Barron.
Nice.
And of course, Kenny Barron is one of my all-time heroes and always has been, always will be. And the wonderful Aaron Deal is also joining us. So I guess we have 3 generations, you know. I remember when I was the young generation. Now I'm in the middle. And Aaron Deal has taken that. And well, there's even younger generation than Aaron, and I suppose older generation than Kenny Barron. But it's nice that it's worked out that way. And it really is just 3 meetings of the minds at the piano. 2 pianos are nested on stage, so we're facing each other, and we'll be playing duets and also trios. You know, we'll be playing with a wonderful rhythm section of Noriko Ueda at the bass and Louis Nash at the drums. And I know that there will be really special moments of improvised magic that will happen between all of us. We'll play solos, we'll play trios, we'll play 2 pianos with and without the rhythm section, and in every combination that we can with that framework of those wonderful people.
I cannot wait for that. I'm curious to know, how do you prepare for a setup like that with three
Well,
killer pianists?
I'm 55 years old and I've been preparing for the last 53 years.
Of course.
That's the best way I can say it, because you prepare in that you be willing to go with the flow at any given moment, but you also bring with you your experience and a full box of tools, which we are always in the process of reassessing and reimagining. And that's one of the best things in the music.
Yeah.
It really goes beyond every ism. It's always about
Mm.
celebrating and embracing the individual. And it's always about being willing to shed whatever it is that you may have prepared at any moment.
Mm.
You know, um, Miles Davis paid his musicians famously to, as he said, practice on the bandstand.
Mhm.
In other words, whatever it is you've prepared, that's wonderful, but you must be willing to let go of it immediately when you hear something that you can react to that's beautiful. And it's funny, so many of the iconic recordings that we all know, and we can sing every solo and we know every rhythm section hit and everything that happened, but really they're snapshots of the magic moment of instant creation. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to have, and that's how we prepare. And
So a
of
lot of
course,
magic will be happening in the moment. It's,
well,
of
we
course.
hope that it will be. You can't plan that either, but I have a feeling that we have the best possibility of having that happen, because the chemistry is so good between the players. And again, the hall is so beautiful and so natural. We can hear each other so well. I remember the first time playing with my trio at the Village Vanguard, and I remember what I felt at that moment, which was, well, Kenny was over stage left, as he usually would be, and Peter was center stage, and the piano was over stage left, stage right, the way that the Vanguard is set up, or at least the way that we set up our trio. I remember feeling that I heard Kenny's hi-hat right in my left ear, like it was right here going, chick, chick, chick. And so I thought, oh, I see. There's
Mhm.
some incredible magic on this stage in the way that we hear each other with such accuracy, because rhythm, well, is the paramount thing in this music, in
Yeah.
all music, but particularly in our music. The groove, the rhythm, the feeling that we have there. And it made me realize, oh, well, that's the deal. That's, besides the ghosts that there are in the room, besides the fact that the Vanguard has all of that magic aura, and it hasn't changed in a very positive way. It hasn't changed for over 75 years.
Yeah.
Well, 92nd Street Y, 92 NY, as we call it now, because it's so quintessentially New York, Kaufman Concert Hall there has that kind of feeling. It really sounds wonderful to the musicians on the stage. So we can
Mhm.
react to each other instantly and have that conversation.
Yeah. It's funny. You drop so many gems that I don't know that you are intentionally doing. But when you say that you kind of have to, prepare your entire life basically and be ready to yield to the music in a moment, there's a life lesson in that. And it reminds me of a conversation I was having once with Lenny White, and how he was rehearsing for a recording with Gato Barbieri. And they had practiced all this music in preparation for the recording. But wouldn't you know, once they got in the session, Barbieri's like, we're not playing any of that,
Well, it's wonderful that you should bring up Lenny White, because I have a wonderful story that I've shared with him well too many times at this point. But
Yeah.
I went to the High School for the Performing Arts in New York City when it was on 46th Street between 6th Avenue and Broadway. And it was an incredible place to go to school, because this is a New York City public school where the student body was brought together by talent, which meant that it was entirely cross-cultural.
Mm.
and that it was entirely, well, even, you had every socioeconomic background, everything was there. You had gospel music, you had classical
Mm.
music, you had jazz, everything was there. Now, I used to sometimes, I didn't always finish the day at school,
Mhm.
and I would, uh, well, we had our music classes in the morning, but academic classes in the later part of the day. I'm not advocating this. It's just that I couldn't wait to get to the piano. And around the corner at the GM building where they drop the ball at Times Square,
Yeah.
and they have the ticker tape going around telling you the news. Well, on the top floor was the Songwriters Hall of Fame. That's what it was called at that time. And in there were all kinds of wonderful exhibits.
Mm.
There was also a room with synthesizers, so I could go in there and pretend I was Joe Zawinul for a couple of hours,
Yeah.
anytime that I
Cool.
wanted. But Fats Waller's piano, his upright piano, was the first thing that you encountered when you got off the elevator. And the other person that I encountered there was Walter Bishop, not Walter Bishop Jr., the great pianist who played with Charlie Parker and many others, but Walter Bishop Sr., who was his father, who was good friends with Duke Ellington and Art Tatum. And he used to sit there and I would play for him. And he was so encouraging to me. He wrote some beautiful songs. He wrote songs for Dakota Staton.
Wow.
Life May Not Be Easy, but It Beats Oblivion. I remember that title. And another one, Sex is a Misdemeanor. The more you miss, the meaner you get. All these wonderful things that he did. But he was a wonderful, elegant, beautiful gentleman. And anyway, I used to sometimes leave school a little early and play Fats Waller's piano, which was, of course, kind of thrilling, but I just wanted to play. And they were very embracing of me in that environment up there. One day, and this is during the heyday, you understand, because I graduated high school in 1984. So this is kind of the heyday of Return to Forever. The Romantic Warrior had only come out a couple of years before. And Lenny White was, as he still, of course, is, but was absolutely an otherworldly presence to me. He represented some sort of Olympian godlike presence. And even how he looked and how he dressed. He came in, if I remember correctly, wearing an almost floor-length fur coat.
Wow.
And a large, giant pork pie hat. I don't think that's pork pie at that point, but it was a signature for him at that time. And it was the cutting edge of hip. And there was Lenny White, and I couldn't believe it. And I remember asking him, "Oh, Mr. White, I don't even know why I asked this question. You're a kid and you want to ask the right question." And I said, "Mr. White, will I have opportunities to play music?" I don't even know what I was really asking.
Yeah.
It was a good question, it turned out. He had a brilliant answer. And it speaks to what you were saying before, Kiana, which is this. He said, "Oh, you'll have nothing but opportunities. The secret is you have to be ready for them."
Mm-hmm.
That was really something. He was really saying something to me in a kind of a big way. And, he's that way. He has a magnificent ear besides his, of course, grand mastery of the instrument and complete originality and original personality. I've heard him interpret Rainey's music on the fly just unbelievably night after night after night and so many other times. But that was a great thing to say. And it speaks to what I'm talking about. And I think what is going to happen on these concerts, or at least what I would like to happen. And actually, that's really the goal. Recently I played, well, it was last winter, I played a couple of nights of duets with the maestro Ron Carter.
Wow.
Now, that was really a mind-bending experience for me because, of course, he's a genius and his contribution to the music is immeasurable. But playing duets with him, it really felt like this. Whatever it is you've got prepared, sit down and play the first note, but right away, you must let go of it. Because you're going to go on a journey, and he's always on the search for that next note. It's note to note all the time, that magical search. That's what we love so much about listening to My Funny Valentine of Miles Davis, one of Miles Davis' great quintets, listening to him and Miles and Herbie Hancock and George Coleman sometimes, Wayne Shorter sometimes, and Tony Williams listen to each other and take that journey together. It's really magic. And all of those things that we study, well, we can study them, but we don't want to regurgitate them because they only happened once.
Right.
And I remember the maestro said to me before we got on stage one night, he said, well, as long as it swings, it'll be cool. And that was it. Once again, if the rhythm is right, everything else is going to be right.
Yeah.
And that's trust. And that's a really beautiful message. So I took that to heart. And I remember 2 nights later, I was playing a solo piano performance. And I saw him a couple weeks later. I said, Maestro, I couldn't shake you. I still felt that you were there. And that's the thing with great musicians and great people. That's why nobody ever dies, really. Because they become you and you become them in some ways.
Yeah.
And we hold parts of each other that augment us. They turn us into more. And that's where I think one of the most beautiful things that happens in our music happens. You know, the soul. Fred Rogers used to talk about people who love you into being. And I think that we love each other into being more. And that happens with great music, and especially in our music, because it's so much about embracing and celebrating each other within this profoundly beautiful and deep and rich past, present, and the future all at the same time language.
Yeah. And speaking of the future, one thing that I really admire about you is how you seem to keep the next generation around you. On the 26th of July.
Yes.
Mara Joy. Starlet on the rise.
There's no doubt.
She's on a rocket ship right now.
Yes.
I cannot wait to be with you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just can't wait to see her with you and the magic that happens there. So the 26th, talk about who's going to be with you there.
Okay, well, it's a pretty magic concert. First of all, the rhythm section. You know, we have 4 incredible rhythm sections throughout these concerts.
Yes.
This rhythm section is the great Carl Allen, who is magic. He's just got completely his own sound and his own way of playing, his own swing, his own richness that he gets out of the drums. It's just really something. And he always plays for everybody else, but at the same time has that, you know, I love drummers who are instigators, who can be both totally supportive and completely, you know, lighting the fire. And Carl does that all the time. Hearing him again with Reni's most recent recording, watching him and Christian McBride, with whom he's had such a long and varied history, watching them interpret that music within the studio was really something. You were watching 2 grandmasters work together, and that was something.
And
anyway,
for those who don't know, let me just say Reni Rosnes is your wife. For those
right.
who don't know, the great. She's off traveling the world right now, I'm sure.
She is actually. She's in Europe with the maestro Ron Carter.
Nice.
As part of his group Foresight, which is herself, the maestro, Jimmy Green at the tenor saxophone, and Peyton Crossley at the drums.
Nice.
And I think they're traveling from Budapest right now.
Wow.
On their way somewhere else. Anyway, Carl Allen's playing drums. One of my favorite bass players on the scene today, the great David Wong, who spent so many years with Jimmy Heath. He is just a superb musician with the most beautiful sound, time, tone. He's got the 3 T's, time, touch, and tone, as Oscar Peterson used to call them, and beautiful choice of notes that comes up right through Percy Heath and Oscar Pettiford and Ron Carter and Paul Chambers and Doug Watkins and plenty of other great giants, and he's got his own voice. So he and Carl make a beautiful rhythm section. Along with that, we have one of the great tenor saxophonists in the history of this music, the great Joe Lovano, who will be joining us. And Joe is just, he jumps into the deep end of the pool all the time. Jim Hall used to say that to me about Joe. It's just, the risk taking is instant, just right away. And such beauty comes through his playing. And the wonderful Warren Wolf, who plays the vibraphone so beautifully and has really made an important name for himself over the last years. He's one of the great voices on his instrument. And you know, one of the things about these concerts also, it's the combinations. These combinations are rare. They've never quite happened this way. You know, from Kenny Barron, myself, and Aaron Deal together with Noriko Ueda and Lewis Nash, Joshua Redman with my trio. These concerts have never happened before and probably will rarely happen again if they do. Joe Lovano with Warren Wolf, with David Wong and Carl Allen and myself. And as you said, our special guest, the wonderful Samara Joy, who sings like an angel. She's already skyrocketing right to the top, and she deserves to be, because she is a magnificent singer and a magnificent musician. And I know that her trajectory is going to rise and rise and rise, because she has the humility and the talent and the brilliance and the connection to the music and to the audience. So we can't wait to all play together, and the magic that's going to happen there.
Yeah. And the final date of Jazz in July on the 28th, is it? The 28th?
That's right. And all of the concerts, I should tell you, happen at 92nd Street and Lexington Avenue. That's where 92NY is. And you can get tickets at 92ny.org/jazz. What else can I tell you? They all start at 7:30. We're not going to have any intermission. We're going straight through. So you can still go out afterwards and have a nice late meal at one of the wonderful restaurants in New York City.
Nice. So how are you closing things out? I know the
closing things out. Yes. All of the concerts also, I have the joy of being the host and the piano player, at least one of the piano players on our second concert, but I'm the piano player and I'm the host of the concert.
Double duty.
Yes, something I inherited from the great Dick Hyman, who was artistic director for 20 years before me. Okay, the last concert, as you said, Mike Stern, one of my all-time heroes. I remember going to Disco Mat when I was in high school, and I wanted to hear Jimi Hendrix and Jeff Beck and all the guitar players who were playing with that sort of aesthetic. And I remember there was a young man there. Oh, I thought he was a real adult. He was probably 17 or something like that. And he knew about music. And he said, "Hey, have you heard this record?" And he put on Fat Time from Miles Davis, Man with the Horn. You know, when Miles had just come back on the scene after that 5 years that he wasn't playing, or, you know, that he wasn't really performing. And he put that record on, and Stern came on and he played that solo that was a shot heard around the world on Fat Time, because it sounded like a cross between Jimi Hendrix, B.B. King, Eric Clapton, and Kenny Burrell all at the same time. You know, he was playing all that bebop, but it was with that Stratocaster sound. It was just great, you know, and such beautiful time. He called him Fat Time. Miles called Mike Fat Time. That was his nickname, you know, because, well, at the time, Mike was a bit larger. But when Mike got his life a little bit more, well, under a very good focus, and I think he also dropped a few pounds, Miles now started to just call him Time. I can tell you that story because Mike tells it himself. But with Mike Stern, and again, another one of the tenor masters. It seems to be that this series is you could subtext it tenor of the times, because we've got four brilliant tenor saxophonists on this concert. Again, Mike Stern, the great Chris Potter. Chris Potter is just the meaning of the word virtuoso. I mean, it's just stunning to hear the way he plays the instrument, not to mention his incredible ability to improvise on the spur of the moment all the time. Just really something special. And between Mike's visceral quality and Chris Potter's incredible playing, we also have the great Scott Colley at the bass. Brilliant bassist who's played with so many people from Carmen McRae to Jim Hall. He's just one of the greats. And the great Bill Stewart at the drums,
Wow.
who's one of the wonderful and innovative players on the instrument, who is regarded just in the highest by everybody. You'll hear Bill Stewart, of course, with so many different people these days, lots with John Scofield. But Bill is one of my all-time favorite drummers, and the combination of him and Scott Colley is on fire. And finally, joining us on that concert is another new voice, and she's skyrocketing up to the top too with her work with Artemis. Now she's a member of one of Christian McBride's new bands, and she is the great Nicole Glover, who is taking the world by storm with her unbelievable, killing tenor saxophone playing. I remember one night we were playing up at Smoke, which has just reopened, thank goodness, and reopened even bigger and better than ever up on Broadway. And we were packing up after our set. K-Wash had his coat and his hat on. Peter was ready to go. Everyone was at the door, and she started her set. Well, I remember at the end of the set, I was still in the club. I looked back at the door, and there was K-Wash. He still had his coat and his hat on the whole time. Everyone was so knocked out, they couldn't leave.
Right.
That was the first time I heard her, and she just, knocks people out of their seats. She's just magnificent.
Oh, my goodness. You have brought together some heavy hitters for this Jazz in July, and it's no wonder you're able to do it. I'm sure you can just call people up, and they're like, oh, Charlotte, of course, I'm there.
It is really something that I feel incredibly blessed with, to be part of this extended musical family and to have friends who are people that I admire beyond category. And I really feel blessed to have such an incredible conglomerate of musicians who are willing to be here for these concerts. I don't take it for granted for a second.
Indeed. And one more time, tell the folks how they can get their tickets. You're going to want to get them now, because these historic combinations I don't feel are going to happen anywhere else, as you mentioned. So tell folks where they can get their tickets and get in on this right away.
Okay, once again, you can get tickets at 92ny.org/jazz. You can also call 212-415-5500, and 92NY, 92nd Street Y, is on 92nd Street and Lexington Avenue on the east side of the street. It takes up the entire city block, but the entrance to the Kaufman Theater is on 92nd Street. And all of the concerts are at 7:30. They are July 19th, Joshua Redman, Bill Charlap Trio. July 21st, Kenny Barron, Aaron Deal, and myself. July 25th, Joe Lovano, Warren Wolf with special guest Samara Joy. And July 28th, Mike Stern, Chris Potter with special guest Nicole Glover. And again, the rhythm sections are amazing. They are Kenny Washington and Peter Washington, Noriko Ueda and Louis Nash, David Wong and Carl Allen, and finally Scott Colley and Bill Stewart. So I'm a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, I'm sure. Amazing. Thank you so much, Bill. Can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you very much, Kiana. It's always delightful to talk to you, and thank you for championing our festival and being such a great friend to me.
Oh, you're welcome. See you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.